You're watching Flowworking, the Entrepreneur's Podcast. I'm your host, Megan Anderson. More people than ever are starting the entrepreneur journey and learning a lot in the process. On this show, I sit down with regular people who are running all types of businesses to discuss the ideas, opportunities, and strategies they're using to build, grow, and thrive as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, make sure you tap the button and subscribe to the channel. Then hit like and share your favorite videos with others. Okay, now on with the show. Hello and welcome to this episode. I'm your host, Megan Anderson. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Daniel Alfon. Daniel's the author of Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. He joined LinkedIn in early 2004 and publishes articles, interviews, and exclusive content about advanced LinkedIn strategies to clients and subscribers to his website. Daniel, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Megan, thank you very much. I was looking forward to a conversation and I'm glad to be part of the Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Yes, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about some advanced LinkedIn strategies because I know that we are all just trying to get connected on this social world, and LinkedIn, I think, is far underutilized as far as a social platform. Do you still find that's true today, that a lot of people underutilize it is in comparison to other platforms?
I'm afraid that's the platform that has the most users that are not using the platform because it's not a niche. It has close to 1 billion members, and since you hit record, hundreds of people signed up. Megan, every second, 2 people sign up.
Wow.
And still, most entrepreneurs are clueless about it.
That is so fascinating to me because I did it's my virtual resume. That's how I had it for years until I started the podcast. And I think that's how a lot of people still think of it, is the way that it originally started, which was that online resume thing for job seekers. But it really has become a great tool for growing businesses.
I'd like our audience here to remember what you said because it's the simplest way to leverage the LinkedIn platform. Forget about the way it started. If you're a job seeker, then fine, use it as a virtual resume. But if you're an entrepreneur, what you're interested in is not a job. It's clients and prospects and growing your business.
Yeah.
So think of your LinkedIn profile as a website or an additional website. Yeah. If you don't have one, then your website that needs to convert your ideal reader into reaching out to you or visiting your website or downloading whatever it is you'd like them to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I know they've got a lot of new stuff on there. I know they recently put like newsletters, and there's all these great stuff that I think people just don't utilize. So let's start with a little bit about growing. So, podcasts or websites or businesses, there's a lot of growth potential that can happen by using LinkedIn, but I'm sure there's some things we should be doing, and I'm sure there's some things we shouldn't be doing. So walk us through a couple of do's and maybe some don'ts on how to use LinkedIn as a growth strategy tool.
With pleasure, Megan. So the first thing I would advise our listeners here as entrepreneurs is to understand that their own LinkedIn profile is way more important than their company page on LinkedIn. Because most people don't follow company pages, they look at individual profiles and they connect as individuals. So unless you employ thousands of people, forget about the page and focus on your profile. Even if you're a solopreneur or if you have a small staff, it doesn't matter. Your profile and your staff profiles are the ones that will bring you business.
Interesting.
If we look at the next step, then deciding who you'd like to connect with is a very important question. Mm-hmm. And most entrepreneurs simply react. So they receive an invitation and they go, okay, maybe I should say yes today, but 3 months ago I would say a different thing, or 6 months down the road I would behave differently. And consistency is important here. So if you need a quick take, would you rather be in 5 years' time? Would you rather be the best connected or the most connected?
Interesting. That's an interesting thought. I know. Yeah, I get direct messages all the time. And I just, personally, I went through and said, if you're in one of these couple of industries, I'm not interested. Otherwise, it's a yes for me. But I've made that list of, because I think you don't want to take the shotgun approach where it's just everybody. I think do you advise people to kind of create your LinkedIn target audience, or maybe who you're looking to connect with? Is that an advisable strategy? Or is it better to just, like you said, connect to anybody and everybody that asks?
Okay, so I would advise everyone to pick the system that works for them. We
Okay.
can elaborate on one or two, but having a system is the most important thing. And maybe the system I would advise, or the system you would advise, would need to be tweaked by individual entrepreneurs who listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to pick referrals, then go for the quality and connect only with people you know. And that
Mm-hmm.
means you may have 50 connections or 200 connections, but whenever you run an advanced search on LinkedIn and you find someone who could be an interesting prospect, then you know the name of that mutual connection.
Yeah.
And the secret is to leave LinkedIn, speak with that, communicate with that mutual connection, and ask whether they feel comfortable enough to make the introduction off LinkedIn.
Interesting.
And that could bring us referrals and revenues and clients and grow our business. And
Mm-hmm.
our real life metrics, for me, are more important than LinkedIn metrics.
Interesting.
So if
Yeah.
you go back to the question of connections, then one thing we could remember is that, say we receive all sorts of invitations, and some of them are interesting and some of them are intriguing, but we're not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't have a system, what we could do is reply to the person who sent us the invitation and simply ask them, "Thank you very much, Jane Doe, for that invitation. Can I be of help to you or your company?" And that would enable you to get a reply from some of them and decide whether it's interesting for you to connect with them or to do something outside of LinkedIn. The platform should serve us, entrepreneurs, and not the other way around.
Yeah.
So have a system, pick your system. We can also mention the other strategy, and that would be quantity. The most important thing to understand here is that quantity in terms of LinkedIn is I consider it something like 30,000 connections.
Oh, wow.
Because otherwise, most people will simply not see the things that we share.
Oh, interesting.
Many people simply visit LinkedIn occasionally when someone sent them an invitation, then they would check that person out and they would stay a little longer, but it's not something that's open 24/7. So most of your connections are not likely to see what you shared. And if you grew your network from 400 to 4,000 thinking that you get exposure, then let's say that 2%, Megan, were viewing your content. So
Mm-hmm.
if you had 400, maybe 80 people would 8 people would see it. And if you have 4,000, maybe 80 people see it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not real exposure.
Interesting.
And the danger is not having enough exposure while polluting the quality of our network. So
Mm-hmm.
either best connected or most connected.
Interesting. So you're either kind of taking the influencer, like, everybody come on in, or you're taking, nope, I'm going to put up the proverbial Chinese wall and make you kind of want, you have to show me why we should connect. That's an interesting thought, where it's not like Facebook, where you're trying to grow your page and, 600 is just as good as 6,000. This is really about quality over either way, you're either going quality or you're going quantity.
Exactly, because you have to ask yourself, if that prospect of ours looks at our profile and they see the names of two mutual connections, and let's say that one, Megan, is a client that adores what it is that you do, and the second doesn't know anything about you. So they're not going to say anything negative, but they'll just go, Megan who?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the answer we want. We want them to recommend or to enable that person to reach out to us. And we are responsible for the decision to connect
Yeah.
with other people. And no one can
Interesting.
see out of those two connections, this is the person I really know. Please check with that person. So you need to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to become an influencer, if you want to connect only with people you know well, you could also use one of LinkedIn's newest additions, and that's the creator mode.
Mm-hmm.
That enables people to follow you without being connected. The
Mm-hmm.
truth is, you can always follow people even before that creator mode was launched. You can still follow people without connecting to them.
Yeah. No, and that's an interesting strategy. I've noticed that as well, that, there's some people I follow, but then there's some people I'm just, actually connected with, and there that difference that. So let's talk a little bit about using LinkedIn as a networking strategy, because that's how I have started using it more, like I said, with the
Mhm.
podcast and wanting to get connected to people. But how can we actually create an online network of people? Kind of, we do in-person networking and it's one thing, but then you get this online networking and it just doesn't seem to work for a lot of people. So how can we utilize that strategy a bit better?
Okay, let's think of if we go back to basics, every entrepreneur has some meaningful real life network.
Yeah.
People they've worked with, if they've been with corporate jobs or if they studied, whatever it is, we have a certain amount of people that we know well enough from our lives, our pre-entrepreneur lives even.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those people are on LinkedIn. So whether it's 20 or 200 or 2000 or 20K, doesn't matter. This is the sandbox that we should start with.
Mm-hmm.
And only after maximizing our connections with that real life network should we even consider connecting with people we don't know, because these are people that are likely to refer other clients to us,
Mm-hmm.
and referrals in some service-based services, it's the best source of clients there is.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen for a second and show you a graph here. And the axis, the one on the bottom, shows us how many connections we have. So when we signed up again, we started over here and then we moved to the right. Maybe we have 20 connections or 200 or 2000. And the
Mm-hmm.
second axis shows how much information we show our ideal reader or our prospect if we're entrepreneurs. So what is the number? What quadrant would you like to reach eventually? Which seems the best for you as an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's probably. I'm reading real quick, but I'm probably kind of, yeah, like where you are in that bottom right hand quadrant is kind of where. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not converting. False start, quicksand. Yeah, I don't want to stand in the quicksand. No thanks. Let's not stand in the quicksand.
Okay, it's interesting what you say, because what happens usually is that if you look at number 4,
Uh
scale your
huh.
business skills, that combines two very important elements.
Mm-hmm.
One is conversion. So people who would visit your own profile would understand why they need to reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for example, when they visit your profile, they see the banner, and then they can see the headline. And the headline, you improved your headline. Instead of having the default headline that LinkedIn shows, and you make it about them, because yours says, I help busy entrepreneurs create, curate, and market their podcast. That's the first sentence. That's way more interesting for the reader who wants to launch their podcast or grow their podcast than the name of your company. So if you hold back to the scales here, the second thing that we're interested in is exposure. So let's say we had two ways to get to number 4. Again, one way would be to start by going to the right and accepting or sending invitations, and then discovering or realizing our profile doesn't convert, or to start by building a decent profile and then send those invitations. Which you think would work best? First going right or first going up?
Um, probably going right. I would think working on the profile first,
Uh-huh.
just because like I notice people look at, they'll see a post of mine and then all of a sudden I'm getting views on, my
Mm.
profile.
Mm.
And so they're going to look for more information.
Excellent. And in fact, what you said is important, because the single most frequent action that LinkedIn users perform on the platform is viewing other people's profiles.
Hmm.
And you mentioned Facebook and other tools. In Facebook, we may consume content all day long, but the profiles are not something we're going to spend a lot of time analyzing.
Yeah.
and often there is not a lot of information there. So because our profile is important and our profiles could drive traffic to our website and conversions, then we need to first build a decent profile and only then worry about connection. Realize, because every time you see a new invitation or we get a new invitation.
Interesting. Very interesting. Um, yeah, no, that's great information. That profile piece, because again, I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's my glorified resume," so it doesn't matter if it just says, "Oh, I'm a COO or a former COO or whatever." That it, because when you see someone pop up, you see that first little, I don't know, it's like 70 characters. It's not a lot, but it's enough to go, "Oh, okay." That's a human being that maybe I'm interested in looking at their profile. And we all do it. I go look at their profile first and then go, decide, do I want to connect? Do I want to look at more of their material? So yeah, interesting thought about getting the profile up, getting that put together properly, and then deciding how you want to connect with others. But it still sounds like it's the place to connect with people that so you have that quality connection. Or ask, hey, I see that, hey, Daniel, I see that you know Steve. Would you be willing to give me a connection to Steve? I'm interested in talking to him about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that could bring a lot of orders and a lot of clients your way. And even if we forget about LinkedIn for a second, then whenever someone runs a search on Google for the entrepreneur's name, if I Google your name here, then guess what? Your LinkedIn profile comes up first.
Oh,
Even though
interesting.
you have a website and you have a podcast, you have lots and lots of things. Many entrepreneurs, people who've published authors and had TED Talks, their profile is so highly ranked by Google that they need to own it. They need to manage it. They can't let someone else call the shots.
And I'll tell you something interesting and this is a personal thing. So my profile utilizes my middle name because there's actually somebody with my first and last name who is a UFC fighter in Australia. I'm not her. So someone brilliantly suggested, do you like your middle name? I said, yes. They said, add it. And now when you Google me, you get, and so
Right.
I put it on my email, I put on everything has first, middle, last, because I recognized, hey, there's someone who's got PR money that I don't have that's got the same first and last name. And great that it's not, because sometimes it's things that you're like, oh, I don't want to be associated with that. Luckily, it's someone who's famous for something good. But you have to be considering that the SEO factor, like our names, it's never been a time in history more than now that your name is actually one of the SEO keywords that people don't think about.
You're absolutely right. And we'll never know the amount of podcasters who approached that Australian lady and asked her for a quote.
Yeah, like it's just interesting to me that. But I think that's the importance also of Googling your own name. I meet a lot of people who are, I'm in my 40s, and a lot of people are like, I'd never Google my own name. I'm like, you should do it. When was the last time you Googled your own name? Because you should know what's popping up, because your potential clients, especially if you're dealing in a business to business world where you're service based, your name, they're going to be like, oh, it's this person. Maybe they got an email or saw you on Facebook and they want to see more about you. To your point, when we Google, that's what pops up. So let's talk content a little bit, because I know LinkedIn content is, their algorithms and the way that you do content is so different than other social platforms. So what are some good strategies for actually, creating and posting content on your page, not your page, your own profile?
Excellent. What I would advise is to focus on educational content that's relevant for your ideal audience. Okay, so if your ideal audience is defined, say, anyone who wants to grow their podcast or launch their podcast, then the simplest thing to do would be to ask yourself, or to interview some of them and say, what are the questions you're struggling with? And I think if you even at 4 a.m. you could draft a FAQ, or at least understand and identify the top 3 questions they struggle with. And if you're able, Megan, to create educational content around that, then that will make people visit your content,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually go into your profile and say, now, you know what, maybe it would take them 2 months. Some of them
Yeah.
are ready for action. Some of them have to be more prepared. But when
Mm-hmm.
they reach out to you in 6 months' time, you're the only seller in town.
Yeah. Because they've been looking at it and seeing what you're doing and following your
Right.
stuff and your content. So let's talk a bit about frequency.
Mm-hmm.
How frequently should you be posting content? Educational and basis, question based. I love that. Top 3 questions. But how frequently?
I don't think we should have a quota,
Okay.
because creating content that's educational is very time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that our audience here needs to even create content for the sake of LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
What we could do is assess the content that we have. Some of it would be on our website, some of it would be on our social media channels, or our book, or whatever it is, and then decide what sort of content can be repurposed or used on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Ideally, the content that's educational and evergreen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some entrepreneurs would have maybe only 2 pieces of content, and others would have 20.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of your connections are not likely to see that content anyway.
Yep.
Then you don't have to say, I need to post something once a week. It's even worse than that, because if you post too often, then your own network is going to become blind and say, hey, I know what this person is posting. So they would hide you, or unfollow you, or disconnect. So you don't have to push for, it's not Twitter. No one will say, why haven't you posted this week?
Yeah. No, it really sounds like, network, connections, content, it is really quality over quantity when it comes to a good LinkedIn strategy, is what I hear you say.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very interesting because, the way that we use other social platforms is just not that way. However, this platform is social for business. And what's great about it is it sounds like it's not the rat race that trying to, get in front of other people on other social platforms is. You can actually be really strategic with how you use LinkedIn.
You're absolutely right. And performing one high quality action that's public on LinkedIn once a quarter can bring you more results than oversharing mediocre stuff every day. It's not worth it.
Interesting. Well, it is fantastic to know that, because you actually just saved me hours in my week. I love that when my guests are like, try this thing. And I'm like, yes, you just helped me in my business too. So for our audience who's listening and watching, if they would like to get connected with you and learn some more hands-on ways that they can improve their own LinkedIn profiles and strategies, what's a great way for them to connect to you right now?
Thank you very much, Megan. The best way is to go to danielalfon.com, and they will find all sorts of free resources and other downloads there.
Fantastic. Yes, I know the stuff that you shared with us today, and you have a few other things on that website that are free. Great resources. So for the audience, make sure you tap the link below to get connected to Daniel, get some of his free resources, and then connect with Daniel directly if you want some more. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today. I learned a whole heck of a lot that I didn't expect to learn.
Thank you very much. And Flow Working the Entrepreneur's Way was a great experience for me. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, I'm glad to have you join me on the show. And to my audience, thank you for joining us today. I am wishing you peace as you flow off to the rest of your business days. We'll talk again soon. Thank you for watching this episode of Flow Working the Entrepreneurs Podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. And while you're here, watch another episode for more advice about being a successful entrepreneur.